Love Robots. Season 3 is officially dropped on Netflix, and throughout the weekend, I am going to be watching a bunch of these different little vignettes and giving my thoughts on each and every single one. I kinda can't binge watch them all at once because my girlfriend's parents are visiting, so I'm gonna be squeezing them in whenever I get an opportunity. But fortunately, this morning, I was able to watch 3 robots. Exit strategies, which is a continuation of characters we've met in Love, Death, Robots before. These 3 robots going through an apocalyptic Earth and kind of diagnosing humanity's flaws and how exactly we came to be destroyed. And it is wonderfully macabre. I really did enjoy just how bleak and blunt they treat the flaws of humanity. I liked a lot of the background gags and just having these robots bantering while they're moving through genuinely horrific scenes of human death and just wow. This is continuing to be, the more you look at it, the more horrifying it is. And it was charming in that sense. Though there's this kind of juxtaposition that is certainly necessary for this macabre humor to work, where they have to be making this very blunt style of jokes that's just very upfront, laughing at us, and it feels appropriate, but at a certain point, it also starts to just hit a little too childish for me in some certain ways, and especially the final gag, this helmet comes up and we get one final bit of dialogue, it just made me groan. I was like, come on, this is the laziest joke you could have possibly made. But overall, I still did really like it, especially the animation. It continues to impress and improve. Love, Death, Robots is just so visually striking. These animators are clearly giving it their all. There's this one sequence in the dark especially where they could have just been lazy and had like just eyes floating around, but there's all these little colors and striking little bits illuminated by refractions, and I loved that. It was actually still visually very engaging, and there's this beginning to the robot uprising as well that was kind of charming in how it was presented. So overall, I'm not disappointed. I know Love, Death, Robots can do better, and I'm really excited to continue on with this season and hopeful that this is going to be quite a bit better than season 2. I'll check back in with you on the next one. Good lordy hee-haw howdy, has it remained true that if you want to guarantee quality, just get David Fincher involved. For those of you who do not know, this one was actually directed by David Fincher, and it is titled Bad Traveling, based off of apparently some opening text crawl that if a ship was lost at sea and no one knew what happened to it, they would say it had a bad traveling. And we get to experience that exact kind of nightmare fuel here, because the story covers a supernatural monster from the deep coming on a ship and putting people in a position of you gotta make some moral choices. And the big moral twist at the end, I really loved and just felt so David Fincher. So the narrative just absolutely won me over, and I don't want to talk about it that too much more because this just came out and I don't want to spoil it for people, but this is a great Love, Death, Robots story. But the visual style, my God. Sometimes in animation, if they keep things really dark, it feels like they're trying to cover up for the lacking of their animation, so they just turned on down that brightness. This is David Fincher. It does not have that feeling, and it also does brighten up later in the second half of this actual, what do I want to call it, a skit? Short. And David Fincher is always able to find so much depth visually in his darkness, and that continues right on here into the animation. This was just so beautifully depressing to look at, and it added so much atmosphere to what these sailors were going through. I was just feasting with the eyes. And the creature design, well, at first I was kind of like, as it progressed on, definitely won me over. Basically, the conclusion here is this one was stupendous. Top tier of Love, Death, Robots, and has put a fantastic bit of oomph for my hopefulness of season 3. If the first one was a 6 out of 10, this one is a solid 9 on the Love, Death, Robots scale, and I'm really excited to get into the next one. Alright, I just got done with the very pulse of the machine. I'm waiting for my car to be serviced, and so I went ahead and just plugged on in and gave it a watch. And I have to say I'm a little bit predisposed to not loving this style of animation, this almost comic booky and Borderlandsian style. Well, I know a lot of people love it. It's just never really been my thing. Aside from that though, this is a pretty good entry. I thought the overall story was fine, and the voice acting was engaging enough. It wasn't something that was super revolutionary for me as a viewer, and I wasn't really taken away with anything really drastic or poignant at the end like I was the last episode where there was that moral twist and conundrum. Here it just more felt like interesting sci-fi things happening, and then we're kind of just done. So I liked it fine enough, but I wasn't blown away or swept out of my seat in any form or fashion that I really felt with the previous episode. I do want to say though, despite not loving the animation style, I did really like the direction within the episode and the display of technology and justification for the beats that happened. It did feel like there was actually a lot accomplished within a style I didn't necessarily enjoy, which is always a great thing to see. And I don't know, the HUD display and the way that air tank was justified, as well as some of the hallucinations coming in stronger, it was as effective as I feel it could be with a style I don't necessarily love. It wasn't my favorite presentation style, and it was just kind of a fine story overall. Hopefully the next review I will be in a much more deskly professional setting, and I can watch this on my full screen rather than a laptop with headphones. Moving on. So I just watched Night of the Mini Dead, and it was a lot of fun. It's kind of like just stupid done great, and I really appreciate that sometimes. It tells a mini zombie movie from a tilt-shift-up board game-like perspective, and has a ton of references for big fans of the zombie genre to enjoy. It showed a lot of talent and creativity without being revolutionary in any way, aside from just showing basically a zombie movie in a couple of minutes from a perspective you probably haven't seen before. I really remembered playing Zombicide with my friends in high school. Like, that's just how it felt for me as a viewer, but watching the events occur in 5-10 minutes. So that was just a lot of fun, and I think it was cool. Not anything spectacular, but certainly fitting into some really fun mid-tier Love, Death, Robot animation style flexes, and I don't know, I really enjoyed that. There's nothing wrong with just having some fun as we're entering the mid-ish point for Love, Death, Robots. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I think so far we're at 6, 9, 6, 7. Not too bad for this season. It happened. We had our first, what I would consider, very bad episode in season 3 called Kill Team Kill. This was filled with a bunch of just insert quote-unquote mouthy, stereotypical military-type characters on a special ops mission going up against a cybernetically enhanced bear. The most common used word is fuck, and it's supposed to be kind of funny and enjoyable in its stupidity, but unfortunately being enjoyable in stupidity is kind of dependent on there still being stuff to enjoy within it, and I found absolutely nothing here worth note. I mean, it opened with a guy pissing on your face being the camera, and it kind of just kept that feeling to the very end. I was very strongly not a fan of this one. There's a couple of famous people who are in the voice cast, and just trying to recognize their voices was how I kept myself entertained, and that's pretty much all that's here. The art is absolutely nothing special. It just kind of looked like Archer from, Archer on FX on steroids, and yeah. Didn't really enjoy this one, unfortunately. It's like a 2 out of 10, and dragging down my opinion of Season 3 a good bit, but let's hope the next one does not continue that trend. And we're rapidly coming up on the one that apparently was partially written by Joe Abercrombie, and I'm really excited to get to it. So, we'll check back in a minute. Swarm is the next episode I watched of Love, Death, Robots, and was absolutely one that I found to be a massive step up from the last. And its animation was certainly up to the bar Love, Death, and Robots has set for itself, and it felt like an episode 1 for a really cool sci-fi series. It got through a lot really quickly, and we got to see 2 interesting characters say a lot of dialogue to each other that felt very servicing to themes and plot. It didn't really get into the nuances of character building. It more just felt like, here is character to explain, here is character to have been an experience of, and then we're gonna move on to the end. I didn't see the end coming necessarily, and I thought it overall was definitely something I will look fondly on if there's actually in episode 2, because without getting into spoilers, the ending of it made me go, oh great, the next step is going to be the part of the story I really, really want to see. See what I mean? So it was good overall, and I was absolutely entertained. So I'll say this is stepping back into the 7 out of 10 category. Fantastic! Oh my god, that was the best thing ever! Holy crap! I loved that. Swear to God, brand new favorite Love, Death, and Robots skits. I laughed. I almost had tears in my eyes. The best character so far this season for Love, Death, and Robots in Mason, and I love the dynamic built between him and the salesman so quickly. The rats had like war heroes. The drone was so intimidating. This was weirdly like the most beautiful episode so far too, because of how just jaw-droppingly outstanding the animation was. Wow, I loved that. This short genuinely stretched the gambit of like reminding me of the opening of Saving Private Ryan, and then having like deep emotional like beats of, oh my god, I'm feeling so much for these rats right now. It had so many little details in the background as well. The high effort nature.
Good God.
This absolutely had Joe Abercrombie's hand in writing it, you can tell, and it feels like him kind of putting his foot into like a Discworldian Joe Abercrombie step. Absolutely my favorite Love, Death, and Robots short ever. 10 out of 10. Well, that was a bunch of bullshit. In Vaulted Halls Entombed, or something along those lines, follows a bunch of Marines trying to go on a hostage rescue mission. They find an alien temple in a mountain, and spoiler warning I guess, but this has like no weight or actual deep significance. They instead stumble upon like Lovecraftian Cthulhu monster, and the animation was impressive at times, and was visually gross for the majority of it. Also just horrifically bad dialogue at repeated times, and characters behaving in ways that were trying to shoehorn in characterization, but just felt totally hollow. This did not manage to find a balance in terms of tone that was interesting at all, and at the end of the day, this is probably the most forgettable of the seasons so far. It just kind of felt like Mad Libs for Love, Death, Robots, if instead of actual quality writers, you gave the template to like a frat house of the worst kind, and they tried to craft their own Love, Death, Robots skit. It's the definition of things just keep happening, and there's not really a deeper rhyme or reason. Overall, this is my least favorite in several different ways, so I will give this one as well a 2 out of 10, because the visuals for the beginning and certain moments were definitely impressive, but it just became ugly to look at, and I have nothing to take away here overall at a deeper level. Not a fan. How absolutely magnificently weird. Never have I watched something that felt more like an actual nightmare. I hated every second of it, and I think it is perfection. What the hell was that? Wow, that was incredible. It was visually outstanding in its presentation, so wonderfully creative, and absolutely terrible in the best way possible. Absolutely horrendous viewing experience, while being something I'm probably gonna go out of my way several times to rewatch and show people. Whenever someone asks me to show them a story that on face value is one thing, but on another level tells a completely different tale, this is probably what I am going to show them in the future from now on. It is so representative, so magnificently masking its themes while making them plenty apparent, having this deaf soldier going up against this supernatural being, and the odd, twisted relationship and what they go through, the way it's executed, was just perfection. I think this was genuinely as good as this story could have been told. Loved it. 10 out of 10 again. Good God, am I glad that this is the note season 3 ended on. I think it is peak Love, Death, Robots. So, my overall thoughts for this season was this was a damn good season of Love, Death, and Robots, and a magnificent step up from season 2. It had low points and some rough patches, but there were some really good goddamn highlights. Overall, I'm giving season 3 of Love, Death, and Robots an 8 out of 10. I'm feeling a bit generous, and I'm gonna respect its ability to manipulate me that way. So yeah, I absolutely think you should check this one out, and that's just this goblin's opinion. So like and subscribe if you have not already, and hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. I got merch, I got books. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.